Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. It's me Gamerturk, and this is the first of many Sword Art Online videos I'll be bringing you during the Alicization mid-season break. Some of these videos will be focusing on the past, some of them will be focusing on non-anime SAO content, and some of them will be providing you glimpses of the future events, going into spoiler territory for those interested. And the first video is going to be answering a major question you all may have right now: what happened to Kirito at the end of episode 24? The answer will require minor spoilers from volume 15, what will be the first couple of episodes of the second half Alicization War of Underworld, so consider this your spoiler warning. To give you some time to leave, I am very close to having 1000 followers on Twitter where I share the latest news about SAO among many other things, so I would really appreciate if you could follow me there. But let's start with what happened to Kirito and then we'll move on with the explanation behind it. At the end of episode 24, Kirito finally managed to contact Kikoka and Higa back in the real life while they were being raided by the attackers. While Kikoka was explaining Kirito that he needed to get to World's End Altar, Kirito heard another voice, an unfamiliar voice as was described in the novels. Seems to be Lieutenant Nakanishi warning them that the power line was about to be cut. Higa mentions that it would cause an electrical surge, and while the light cube cluster, so every living floodlight in Underworld, is protected, the protections for the SDL unit Kirito was diving from were disabled because he was recovering from his situation. So the power surge would affect Kirito in a major way, but quote-unquote frying his brain was not a literal explanation by Higa, who was just startled in the heat of the moment there. Back within Underworld, however, the main concept that contributed to Kirito's final situation was incarnation. You can hear more about incarnation in my Dual Blades video as well as episode 22 explained video, but to sum it up, it is the act of overwriting the system via thoughts, and these thoughts do not solely consist of conscious ones like I can do this, I'm the best kind of things, etc., but also unconscious thoughts like being scared, being angry, desperation, or much more closely related to Kirito's case here, guilt. In my episode 23 explained, I mentioned a lot about Kirito's inner monologues that were cut, and this was no different in episode 24. At this point, Kirito had suffered major losses and he blamed himself for everything. His thought process had went so far that he wished to die, disappear, simply no longer exist in this world because he could not bear the guilt of losing everyone he sought to protect. And that's what brings us to the final scene. While he was lashing out at Kikoka at the console, his anger was stemming from his own losses, his own guilt. He was blaming himself for everything that had transpired in the last couple of hours. And at the high point of his shame, the surge hit his STL. Now keep in mind that Kirito didn't feel anything at that moment, but knew something had went wrong. And don't get the wrong idea, his brain is not fried. STL is not really a NerveGear. The electrical surge did not physically harm his body in any way. However, according to Higa Takeru's theory, this power surge amplified the effects of incarnation for Kirito at that very moment. At the moment where there was nothing there but guilt and shame, the desire to no longer exist. With the surge, this desire to no longer exist had manifested in Kirito's mind, affecting his floodlight deeply. When Higa showed others the floodlight scans from Kirito's SDL, it was much more clear. I actually made this comparison back in my opening explained video since it was hinting at this, but in the normal course of a floodlight's activity, the scan should look something similar like this on the screen. However, when the camera zooms into Kirito's eyes in the episode 21 to 24 opening sequence, you can only see a handful of floodlight activity flashes that was hinting at this very moment. All in all, the guilt and shame amplified by the power surge had destroyed Kirito's decision-making logic systems within his brain. Higa puts it quite simply as his overall floodlight is unharmed. However, due to his logic circuits no longer functioning, while he can receive exterior input such as seeing things, hearing things, smelling things, etc., he cannot actively process these kinds of information and thus cannot react to anything as well due to no information being processed in his mind. Thus, a majority of his reactions are simply relegated to basic humanly reflexes such as breathing, eating, sleeping, and at most, instinctual reactions to strong memories. This is why you see him in the cover of volume 15 Alicization Invading with the broken Blue sword and the Night Sky sword. Despite not even being aware of who he is, Kirito refuses to let go of these two weapons that he has a very strong attachment to on an instinctual level. But you will experience those more in depth once the anime returns, but I will also continue to provide more videos about future content for those interested. Now don't worry, there won't be spoiler content in the thumbnails or titles like some other content creators. I have limited that to the cover of volume 15 since I consider the cover to be very similar to a key visual without any context, just like the War of Underworld teaser poster. Oh boy, I can actually talk so much on that picture alone with the context behind it. But yeah, hope you enjoyed this short info video regarding what happened to Kirigaya Kazuto. As usual, a huge thanks to my patrons and YouTube members for directly supporting my channel, and thank you all for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay cool.